Super Bowl Sunday! Woo! All right, first things first, who do you want to win? We're going to be talking about sports teams today. Sports teams buying up real estate of all things. I didn't even know that was a thing, but my husband was like, "Oh, they've been doing it for years." He was explaining it to me all that this. Who was it, Eddie? Who was it that bought all the real estate? What? John Robert Kraft. He was the first one to like buy up real estate and stuff. But now they're using like public funds and tax dollars to buy real estate. We'll get into the article and I'll share more with you. But found it fascinating because Kristina says no. So I hope you guys are enjoying your day. I made myself some not that you care, but I made some artichoke spinach dip. Eddie's got some wings going. We have typical Super Bowl Sunday stuff. And it's just me and the family. So I do want everybody to know that Eddie did clean the countertops today. And the only reason I'm telling you that is because he makes an announcement every day. And I said, "Do you want me to make a Facebook post about it?" He's like, "No." So now it's become this running joke that Eddie cleans the countertops. So I thought I'd let you know that Eddie cleans the countertops in the kitchen. It's a little inside joke, little poke at him since he makes the announcement. Somebody asked if I'm wearing new glasses. No, I don't know what happened. 2 years ago, I was doing the thing, you know how like the thing you get to a certain age and you hold the phone out and you're like, "Oh," and then you're holding it out like this. And I was at a restaurant with my brother, and he said, "Do you want my glasses?" And I'm like, "Oh, no, I can see it." And I was holding the thing. He's like, "Just use my glasses." And I put them on. And it was like, "It's a whole new world." You know? And I was like, "Okay, that's it. It's time." So I went ahead and because it was the same, I just went ahead and got the same prescription as he has. These are my favorite though, just because I have lots of different pairs, of glasses, but these ones are just small enough that I can look over and see everything else around me. And this is just for like seeing the keyboard and seeing the chat and stuff. The only thing that stinks about it is that it leaves a reflection, like when I'm talking. So I take them off usually when I do live streams. So yeah. Anyways, not that you wanted that whole rundown about my glasses, but thanks for asking. They're my favorite. And I don't even remember where I got them from. And I want a second pair because I lose everything. So I have to go look through receipts to find them. Anyways, I hope everybody's having a fantastic day. Like I said, I want to know who you rooting for. Who's the team that you're rooting for today? And then we'll get into the article. Everybody's saying hello to everybody. It's so nice to see everyone. Hello, Amanda. Oh, she even said hi to you, Eddie. Eddie's in the background again today because I figured if y'all had sports questions, he would be the one to ask. Because I don't. Kristina and sports don't mix. So like oil and vinegar. No. You gotta shake it up for me to go out there. I do like the food. No one's telling me. Oh, we got one. The 49ers. Big bold 49er gold. Somebody says. Somebody says Taylor's boyfriend. I'm like, oh, huh? Look at the screen. Oh, it tells you. What am I looking at? How about them Chiefs? 49ers. Yeah, I was like, oh, this is Taylor's Super Bowl. Taylor, you know what? This is her first year even playing football, and she's already in the Super Bowl. She's a phenom. She's a phenom. Anyways, yeah, Taylor's boyfriend. That is so funny. I wondered if they're gonna show her. Like, I heard like she's had this big she had a concert in Japan and they're tracking how many miles and when she lands and where she's in LAX, and it's like hysterical that people are just so interested in I mean granted, I know she's famous, but I find it fascinating that everybody gets a big charge out of this girl. So all right, let's get into the article. Let's talk about how sports teams are making bank off of real estate. And it's interesting to me. I had no idea because I like, oh, well, sports teams, they make good money off of the stuff, but they have to build the arenas and the whole 9 yards. So they have to make their money somehow, I guess. So Eddie's going to go ahead and put that article up on the screen. Eddie wants you to know not to don't forget to hit that like button. The way I say button sometimes. All right, see, back to the glasses. Why billionaire sports owners are snapping up so much real estate. Like we don't need enough investors investing in a bunch of real estate. So for decades, major league teams depended on ticket sales and concessions on TV deals to generate revenue. But team owners in recent years have turned to real estate development to bring extra cash and drive up assessed values for their franchises. Billionaires, have built dozens of new stadiums and arenas, often with hundreds of millions of dollars in taxpayer funding. State and local governments spend about $33 billion in public funds to build stadiums in North America between 1970 and 2020, with a median public contribution covering 73% of the cost. A study published last year found that a part of sports teams' agreements with cities, they have been handed the rights to transform the land around the ballparks into offices, apartment buildings, hotels, and shopping malls. I did not see the Taylor Swift cake. Stadiums are giant paperweights and incredibly expensive. Said Jeffrey, I cannot say that last name, Profiteer, who studies economics of sports stadiums at University of Colorado in Denver. Look at that. Like, you gotta remember, like they're in the middle of cities and they like take up large parking lots. Every time, whoa, where are you going, Eddie? I can't read that. All right. Every time you get a new stadium, an owner wants to get real estate with it and the rights to develop everything around it. They can make more money with the development rights than they can on the operations of the stadium itself. Teams push into real estate as a significant implications to, oops. Uh-oh. Oh, sorry. That's okay. There was an ad that popped up. Teams push into real estate has significant implications in that is shaping both the sports league and urban leagues. Teams are now real estate plays for billionaires. Stadiums increasingly serve as anchors for mixed-use shopping and entertainment districts. Development rights and stadiums for owners who have become a key component of public financing for these projects. Okay, so I want to. This was the point of this. I want to know your opinion. Do you think it's right for these big teams that have these stadiums that are used with public funds to make the stadiums themselves, that the team should have the right to the real estate that is around the stadiums itself? Like, should they get special privileges to be able to buy and purchase all that? Because to me, it's like, they're making their money. I mean, people watch football and they make good money off ticket sales and swag and all this other stuff. But the opportunity, I think, should be for the companies, the other little companies, the little mom and pops that are, have their little restaurants and stuff to be able to cash in on that. And if it's all corporate owned, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what I just want to know your opinion. Do you think it's right that they get a first opportunity to all the real estate that's around these stadiums? And the article says it makes perfect sense for a team owner to play real estate as long as the people drink the Kool-Aid that stadiums trigger large economic returns. Owners will take the land. I don't know. I'm just so tired of corporate investing. It's like squashes out the little guy. Like, I love reading the stories of like developers coming in, and there's always that one or two people that won't sell. And so they have like a little tiny house in between like huge skyscrapers. And they're like, no, this is my house. I'm not leaving, It's like a David and Goliath story. And they don't allow poor David to have his own restaurant. But I mean, maybe I'm wrong. I think about this stuff when I read these articles. I'm like, I don't think we need more corporate investing. I just don't, Yeah. So there's a couple of these comments. I'm going to go ahead and put them up on the screen. And it says they're not using taxpayer funds. Well, it said 75%. According to that article, 75% was taxpayer funds. If we consider the total revenues generated by sports teams relative to its host city, the team contributes 1/3 and 1/20% to the local economy. More spending on sports games does not imply new net spending with a metropolitan area. Yeah. So it says their money, no problem. My money, big problem. Yeah, there you go. Nope. Peter says nope. And he doesn't want me to push the buttons anymore. Are the teams or the organization that is buying the real estate? Well, it's the organization team, right? So if who was that guy, Eddie, again? Oh, Robert Kraft. He's gonna have to tell me that name 100 times. Owner of Gillette. He was using his own money, but the other teams were not doing that. They're not using their own money. They're making a deal. Yeah. No. No. Hello from Utah. Hello, Utah. I've been up there. Peter says, nope. I mean, yeah, like the thing is that we are living in an environment, and it feels more today than it has in the last several years, that corporate greed has run amok. I mean, there's always been corporate greed. There's no doubt about it, but it's so blatant in your face now that they're not even trying to hide it. And this just shows another way that if you got big enough pockets, you can get the sweetest deals. And, then it just squashes out opportunity for small business, in my opinion. And that's the same with residential real estate as well. Right now, commercial real estate is taking a bath. It's in a free fall. So, those corporate sports team companies, whatever you want to call it, they're getting that outside real estate around their stadium on the cheap. Yep. Somebody says greed. Absolutely. And that's what it comes down to. They're just trying to make as much money, squeeze as much money out of the person that's just trying to watch a football game with their friends. They're going to charge you all the way up, from the time you're coming in with all your gas money to the time you get out of the car and all the merchandise they're selling you that, has their stuff on there. Then they have, if they own all the restaurants and all the real estate around there, you stop at a bar to get a pub, a beer or whatever, and they own all that. Then you go into the stadium. I mean, they've gotten your money all the way up, and there was no opportunity for the little guy. I don't know. I mean, like, to me, it feels wrong. I hated when like all the stadiums like started changing their names, like it was no longer like a regular stadium. It was like Gillette Stadium or the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. I'm like, I don't like it. It doesn't feel the same. It doesn't feel the same at all. So anyway, if you have any real estate questions or you want to voice your opinion about corporate greed and what's going on with the Super Bowl and what they're buying, let me know. It says that stat is bunk. It's just greed. One on the seventh deadly sin. Yep. A football team plays 8. The football stadium can augment its month-to-month emptiness by hosting concerts, tractor pulls, but these aren't enough to do much for revenue streams. So public funding is spent to build these facilities, can often be described with accuracy of a waste of money, according to this article. Who's this article by, Eddie? Because this isn't me saying. I have no idea. This is not my wheelhouse. First of all, it's not commercial real estate. It's not my wheelhouse. And I don't, nothing but governing the tricky business of making stadiums pay off. Yeah. I don't know. I know nothing about sports. I see people though at sporting events spend insane amount of money, and I've been to concerts. And you know how much we spend when you take your kids to a concert, then they want the t-shirts. And then when you're walking in, there's all those vendors that are selling stuff. And then you don't want to get there too late, so you go there early and then you go eat at a restaurant. So you don't have to eat in the stadium because it's too expensive to eat in the stadium. But then when you're at the stadium, they're like, can we please get cotton candy? And you're like, oh, okay. They get, like there's a lot of money to be had around that area whenever a concert comes in. I don't know how they offset the cost of the stadium to the actual concerts and everything else they do. I don't know. Peter says, I don't follow sports ball. I have no idea who Taylor Swift is, but I bet he's really fast. She's very fast at topping the charts in pop music. She used to be a country music star, and now she's a pop music star. I think 5 years ago, my kids begged to go see Tay Tay. So we went on a trip to go see Tay Tay. And it was a lot of fun. But my kids are like old ladies. And they were like, at one point, they were like, it's getting really late. Can we leave? I'm like, well, they haven't even lit up the bracelets left. And I'm like, don't you want to wait until they light up the bracelets? And they're like, no, I just want to go home. I'm hungry. And I went, okay. Yeah, I was like, yeah. Violet says, question: if investors to get the places going, why don't we receive dividends for some of the pharmaceuticals too? Yeah, why don't like if they start making bank, why don't they start paying us back? We give so much tax cuts to like those kinds of things. Why don't they, when they're making huge profits, why don't they give it back to us? Wouldn't that be something? That is asking way too much. That's asking way too much. U.S. sports is beyond me. Cricket? No, we're talking. My husband likes to watch MMA. And I was like, oh, look, there's men in like just wrestling with each other, just beating each other up in a cage. Not for me. Nope. There's sweaty men just rubbing themselves all over. Like, that would be my nightmare. Not me. Theaters make way more on concessions than ticket sales. Right. So they make the money off the $9 popcorn, right? And the popcorn's so cheap for them to make. And that butter, I don't even know what it is. It's not butter. It's like colored orange oil. It's delicious. Time to investigate big pro sports, But the thing, like, let's be honest. Any sports team is always backed by Wall Street, So I mean, really, we're still fighting Wall Street all the same. So let's just stick it to Wall Street as much as we can. People happily pay these inflated prices, just giving away a purchasing power to corporations. Well, it's like in some cases you don't have a choice, right? When it comes to food and stuff, you have no choice. You have to pay the inflated prices. But just recently, and anybody that's been watching me for a period of time, my car lease was up. And it was up when car prices were absolutely historically ridiculously high. And I'm like, I'm not doing it. I'm just going to turn in my lease. So for a while, I didn't have a car. And luckily, my neighbor was selling their car next door. And it's not, there's nothing. It's a little box. It's what is it? A Kia? No, it's Nissan Cube. It's got over 100,000 miles on it. And I got it. It's a box. I got it for $2,000. Happily paid that $2,000. And I'm going to ride that sucker until it falls apart. Because I think it's dumb what you pay for cars now. They're totally not worth what they're asking, in my opinion. And I'm not participating. And I always used to like drive clients around and stuff. And I don't have to do that anymore. So the type of car I drive doesn't mean a hill of beans difference to anything I do. So, and then my kids drive, my daughter has a truck that's older than she is. And then my husband's car is paid off too. We'll drive those, we'll fix them, but we're not partaking. And you can make a choice not to go to football games and help them invest in more real estate. You can do that. So Eddie, the man in the iron mask, his face will never be seen. You can find him. He's been on here occasionally. Every once in a blue moon, he's on the screen. One time we started a stream and his face showed up first. I'm like, Eddie, you're on air. He's like, whoops. He makes it seem like he's hideous. He's a good looking man. Yep. Backed by Wall Street, all more the reason to investigate. I mean, anytime you're big like that and you're a $1 billion corporation, absolutely Wall Street's got their fingers in it. There's no doubt. You can't get that big without having Wall Street dipping their sticky fingers in. You can't. Oh, not Eddie. No, indeed. I won't even say that out loud. No. Yeah. I mean, I get it. I get it, Violet. I understand. I understand. If y'all have any questions, please put them in the stream. I know that everybody's doing their Super Bowl Sunday thing, and I just wanted to like I love talking real estate, and I couldn't give up a weekend to not talk about it. So uh, I've gotten 227 on mine. Oh, on your car. I bet he's talking about mileage. Yep. My next car will be a 2013 or 14 Chevy Impala. 2017, 2019 Ford Taurus V6. Yeah, like I I think the cheapest car you can buy right now, like when my daughter and I were looking, was $20,000. $20,000. And I'm like, for an economy car? I mean, I'm talking brand new, don't get me wrong. And then, they had a even used car shortage for a hot minute, and used cars were just as expensive as buying a brand new car. And I'm like, this is just dumb, dumb. And but I was kind of like at a weird place because I had kind of like I had no choice. I couldn't live without a car. We were making it, but there's always things you got to do, like get your teeth cleaned and stuff. And the kids are at school, and I'm like, I can't even make appointments. So when that neighbor was like, "Yeah, we're gonna sell this," we're gonna sell for $2,000. I'm like, sold. Pick me. And they're like, serious? I'm like, I'm dead serious. I love this car too. Broncos in Denver are owned by the Waltons. Like, oh, like the Walmart people. Oh, like Sam Walton. Oh, wow. And he's whispering in the back. You can't hear him. He's whispering all this information to me. I saw Godzilla -1 when it came out. I think the ticket was $9, popcorn and a drink was $16. Man. And I actually really enjoyed and when one of the only few benefits of the pandemic where they were taking like movies that they would have normally shown in the movie theater and they just went straight to streaming. I was like, this is fantastic. I don't have to leave my house. I don't have to worry about like going to the bathroom. I can pause it if I need to, if my phone rings or the dogs start barking. I mean, like all this stuff. It was so great. I'm like, I hope this becomes the new thing, the new normal. It did not, but a girl is hopeful. I loved that. It was much better for me to spend $9 a ticket for us to watch it in the living room than it was to drive out there. Yep. Popcorn. Popcorn buttered is not butter. It's mostly partially hydrogenated soybean oil with butter flavoring and beta carotene from carrots for the color. Well, thank you, Debbie. That was interesting. We went from sports, popcorn, cars. We're just covering the gambit today. This is amazing. Your movie theater butter has no butter in it. It has there it is. Look at that. Full of trans fats. Yeah, my kids like it. I don't like it. I think it's weird. I thought popcorn butter was lard. Maybe it's changed over the years. Yeah. All right. So we're going off the cuff today. So like McDonald's, McDonald's French fries used to be so delicious. And like when we were kids, we were like, you would get those McDonald's fries and you would eat the ones at the bottom of the bag. They were so good. That's because they were made not with the oil they're using today. They were made with beef tallow, right? Beef tallow. And that's why they were so delicious. That's why they were so good. But then, everybody was worried about, the animal fats and all that kind of stuff. So then they tried to like do it with like Olean, which was giving everybody stomach issues that we won't want to talk about. And then they went straight to the good old vegetable oil. Good old vegetable oil. Fancy name for Crisco. But I don't know. I liked the beef tallow. I wish they'd go back to it. Oh, Larry's got a Tundra 2007, 250,000 miles and still going strong. That's what I plan on doing. I feel like I got a deal. When we got it, it had 121,000 miles and I got it for $2,000. I was like, I felt like I won the lottery. Honestly, you can like, it is a machine that drives me around. Like that's the part that blows me around. Like blows my mind. It's a machine that drives me all over town to pick up groceries and all sorts of stuff. and I only paid $2,000 for it. In this economy, I feel like it was a steal. Debbie wants you to smash the like button. I didn't think there was going to be a lot of people on today, but I'm sure glad that all 172 were able to join us today because I knew people are really. Oh, now I don't jumped up to 178. I appreciate every single one of you that were able to pop in before Super Bowl Sunday. Crow Home says we have a used SUV. We noticed the odometer. Was in kilometers. I know the word. I just couldn't say it. Eddie. Not miles. So much better value for the price. Yeah. Yeah. Here over here in the United States, we don't do Celsius, we do Fahrenheit. We don't do kilometers, we do miles. We got to make things different. We always got to be different here in the United States. Crazy May says she pops her popcorn on the stove. Do you remember Jiffy Pop? Do you remember that? Like, and then they made the big ball. Oh, I loved that as a kid. Like, you know what I'm talking about? Like, it was like a pan, and then it would like you pop it, and then it would make that big giant ball. Oh, I loved it. And then I loved the little like burnt kernels that were on the bottom. So good. Did you know that 1 tablespoon of soybean oil has 3 times the estrogen than birth control? Weston Price article. Wow. And I did not know that. I do not know that. I've been starting to make a lot of my own foods myself. I've made my own all my sauces, like all my dressings are completely homemade. And I make my own bread now. I have my own a sourdough starter, so I make my own breads for the house. I'm going to get a garden this year. I'm canning a lot more this year. And it's not like I'm a prepper or anything. I hate paying this kind of money for food, and it's really making me sick. So I've been doing a lot of it for myself. It's one of those things. I have the opportunity. I'm lucky in the fact that I have enough of a yard that I can make a garden for myself. So why wouldn't I? I mean, they're not sprayed with pesticides, and I don't have to worry about hydrogenated oils. And there's nothing wrong with canning, that's for sure. My grandma did it. I can do it too. I feel like when I'm doing this stuff, there's like a sense of pride too. When you get all that stuff together, I'm like, I could be like on the Little House of the Prairie. Look at me, I'm making my own bread. In my brain, in my little imagination, I'm like folding up my brain. I'm like, I can just imagine myself, just helping Pa out on the farm making this bread. Now you know what lives in my brain. I got off the subject matter. Oh, totally. We're flying on the cuff today. We were talking about real estate. We were talking about corporations, sports teams buying real estate. We have totally missed the mark today since everybody wants to talk about sorts of stuff. So we're doing it. We're just going off the cuff. It's a special day. Everybody's in their brain of the Super Bowl. But if you have a real estate question, please, by all means, throw it out there. We'll have a discussion. We'll bring it out to the chat and everything. So I used to work at McDonald's. It was a block of lard that was put in the fryer. Today there are bags of oil in the fryer. Yeah, my daughter works at my daughter worked at McDonald's, and my brother, and they were comparing notes. My brother worked at McDonald's in the 70s, early 80s, I'm sorry. And then my daughter today. So it's not quite the same as they used to. McDonald's prices right now are even out of my budget. I'm not paying, $10 for a Big Mac meal. Just not worth it to me. Violet says, I'm growing lots of potatoes this year and maybe tomatoes. We can't grow tomatoes here in Louisiana. It gets too hot. Splits the outside skin, and they're it's so tough and leathery. And every time I've ever tried to do it, they always turn out like garbage. They're always good at the beginning of the spring, and then by the end of spring, right at the beginning of summer, they're just they suck. They're terrible. Allie says, fun fact, the U.S. is one of 3 countries to use imperial system, inches instead of centimeter, inches, not centimeters. We like to be different. Kristina rules. Football rules. I have no skin in this game. I'm really I love Super Bowl parties because I love the food. I love like wings and dips and like charcuterie boards and any kind of hors d'oeuvres. I love that. I love all that stuff. Sarah has a question. Thank God we have a real estate question. Thank you, Sarah. It says, what are the pros and cons of using a HELOC to buy a second property and using the first as a rental? I want something for my kids in their future. Ooh, so you have to remember, like a HELOC isn't like a traditional mortgage, and you really have to know what you're doing with your HELOC and be able to pay it off quickly because in some cases those rates for your HELOC can be adjustable. So be very clear on your terms on what kind of HELOC that you're getting on your house, and be sure that you're going to be able to get the return on that investment and pay it off. I just talked to somebody recently who's in real estate. When they got their first house, they had gotten themselves in some financial trouble, but they had gotten a lot of equity in their house. So they got a HELOC, and he was just making the minimum payments thinking that was what he needed to do. But all he was doing is paying interest. He never touched the principal on it at all. So be very clear on your terms of what your HELOC is. The pros is that it's your money that you're using to purchase. So if you had like the whole amount to buy a house, you could buy cash, or you have a hefty down payment. That looks good on a contract. When as a real estate agent, if I see somebody come in with a contract and they're putting down a good 40% on a house before they get a mortgage, whether they're buying it as a second home or not, I see that on the contract and I'm like, oh, these are strong buyers. These are very strong buyers because they're genuinely interested in the house. There's more skin in the game for them to lose it. And that's always a pro. But whatever decision you make, whether you use a HELOC or not, make sure you speak to several lenders and talk to a financial advisor to see if that's something that's feasible for you. It is a great product if used wisely, but there's many people that have got in over their heads when they use one. I saw lots of people before the housing crash in 2008 who had taken a HELOC out on their house to do multiple upgrades, kitchens, bathrooms, all sorts of things that they wanted done to the house. They ended up over improving their home. And then the value of their home started dissipating. And then they weren't making as much money. And then they had a hard time paying it back. And some people even lost their home. We had friends, my husband and I had friends, they lost their home during that time. And it was in the middle of a full, like, a whole remodel, like the whole thing. They had gutted it all out. And by the time it was finished, they were finished. They had to foreclose. They couldn't do anything more for it. And then when they went to sell it, they couldn't sell it for all the money they put into it. So just be very cautious of that. So what exactly is the Super Bowl? This is my understanding, and this is a very oh, Eddie, thank God. Thank you so much, because I know nothing about football. The Super Bowl is an annual league champion game of the National Football League of the United States. It has served as the final game of every NFL season since 1966, replacing the NFL champion game. Since 2002, the game is played on the second Sunday in February. I could not be more elated that my husband put it on the screen. I would have just said, well, when all the football playing teams got together, they played a bunch of games, they picked the best ones, and they said, you two, you go play. And we're going to make a big spectacle out of it. What's the halftime show? Who is the halftime show this year? Oh, it's Usher. Oh, okay, that's fine. Yeah. Yeah, tomatoes in the South are tasteless. Yeah. You should invest in a sunscreen over your plants. So thank you, C Stone. So Eddie and I were talking about it because we have a lot of sun exposure on our backyard. But if we put it on this side of the house, the afternoon sun will be covered by the fence, the shade from the fence. So I think I'm going to put the garden on the opposite side so we get that, because the afternoon sun here is brutal. It is brutal. You can really cook an egg. Violet has a question. Kristina, can we solve the homeless problem quick with RV communities on a parking lots and public lands? The homeless problem is a complex problem. We can't just build our way or put a Band-Aid on it and say, look, we found you a house and now you got to go live in it. There's so many different types of homeless. There's people that are chronically homeless, and don't hurt me for saying this, but there are people that are truly enjoy living the homeless lifestyle. That is not the majority of them. That is not the majority of them. Then we have people, of course, that have mental illness problems. We need to address that as well. You can't just give them a house and then not fix what's here. They need that. Then we have a lot of working homeless that would love to have the opportunity to live in a house. There's people, and because Eddie and I know this, there's people that will work two jobs. They work at like McDonald's and they work at Walmart, and they still not enough for them to be able to rent an apartment. So they're living out of their car in order to just have enough necessities to save enough money to hopefully one day be able to afford a house. The problem is complex. It would address certain parts of what you're saying, you're proposing would address some of it, but it would not address the whole entire situation. In California, they took a whole public park and they turned it into like a tiny home community for the homeless. It has not, the success for that, I would say, is not what they hoped for. It's just not what they hoped for. So I wish I had a better answer for you. I wish it was a one, like, oh, we just build these houses and no one will be homeless anymore. I mean, that would solve a lot of it, but it's not going to solve the whole entire problem. That is for sure. It's complex. So Lexical Gap says, question, what is your thoughts on real estate as part of a retirement plan? I've watched a documentary by Lehman Brothers, Madoff, Credit Susie, and the FTX. I'm a bit spooked. So if you ever hear about anybody ever getting extremely rich, they did it through real estate. And I know that, like, my aunt and uncle, they worked very simple jobs. I think my uncle worked on the railway. I could be wrong about that, but he just had a regular job. And then my aunt was a school nurse. They took their money and invested in buying rental properties. In turn, when they went to sell those rental properties, that helped their retirement nest egg. I think that there is always opportunity in real estate, and it should be part of your retirement plan. That is just my personal opinion. You always talk to your financial advisor. I'm not giving financial advice. I'm just telling you what I would do. Yep. What's a HELOC? It's a home equity line of credit. So that's like what do they call that? An acronym? Is that yeah. Home equity line of credit is a second mortgage that gives you access to cash based on the value of the home. It can also be part of the primary mortgage of your home outright. You borrow against your equity, which is the home's value minus the amount on your primary mortgage. You can usually borrow up to 85% of your equity through various varieties of lenders. So they'll do like what they call a drive-by appraisal. That's what they do with us. So they just kind of basically took the houses that had sold in the area, and they figured out how much we owed on our mortgage. And let's just say you had a house that was worth $200,000 and you only owed $85,000. They would allow you to borrow 85% of it, leaving some of it for, depreciation value, the risk of depreciation. And then you could borrow that amount of money. And depending on the bank, but they just basically give you a checkbook for the HELOC. So it's a separate account. If you never use it, you don't pay anything. So we have it for just in case. You never know. There's things that can pop up, and it just allows me to have access to my own equity in my own house at any time. That's why we have one. FEMA trailers. Yeah. So back in, what was that? 2006 or 7, Eddie, when Katrina happened. Oh, 2005, man. In 2005, we had Katrina that came through, and we had these FEMA trailers. They're small. They work really well. Like I said, though, it's no different than the tiny home village that they did in California, where they even had like trailers for showers and stuff for working homeless that could shower up before they go to work. Like I said, the success rate on any kind of housing is not what they hope. The problem from homelessness is so multi-layered and so complex. It's not that it can't be solved. Honestly, if we're going to be honest, if the investment in programs like we used to have was available today, we wouldn't have half as many homeless on the streets as we did before. We'll see. So, question: is there empty home somewhere for every evicted homeless person living under a blue tarp? Is there a lack of homes? So we have a lot of houses here in the United States that are vacant homes, but they're being paid for. So people will buy homes as second homes. And so they could have a home in like Utah, and they can have a home in New York, and they can have a home in California. And in San Francisco, they've had excess amount of homes that are vacant. One thing that corporations do, since we're going to talk about corporate greed, is they'll have an apartment building to artificially inflate the price of the rents in the area because they own many buildings in that area. They will purposely keep certain units unoccupied, not because they don't want to have to bring down the rent rates. Because if you have full occupancy, you can continue to jack up the prices. That's why I always say that no neighborhood should ever allow more than 20%. If you can, 10% of investor buying power, right? Because some HOAs, it will give you a vote on how many units are in the neighborhood itself. So if a corporation owned 20% of the houses and they owned all the houses, that means they also have 20% of the votes. And you know how many people don't show up for HOA meetings. So it means they would dictate everything that was going on from in the future. This is just a scenario, to think about. Corporate investing has pillaged the real estate market, pillaged it, and it's going to only get worse. Now there are some bills out there that have said that, we're gonna address corporate buying and we're gonna tax them and blah blah blah. But it's just words from politicians making the public feel better. They put it all on paper on a bill. That thing will never, ever, ever, in my opinion, ever hit any floor to be voted on. It's just one of those things that, I'm campaigning and I'm going to go look like I'm doing something for the people. I would love to see if that's if that actually hits the floor to be voted on, but no way. I don't see it. Zach says, do you have any advice on buying land for farming versus real estate? So, depending on your state that you live in, you can actually get some tax credits because you are farming. And I don't know how much farming you're doing. Are you doing like commercial farming? Are you homesteading? What kind of farm are you going to put together? Every state has a different rule to it. I don't even know how to give you advice on what kind of farm that you want. I don't know I don't know what you want. So I couldn't give you any specific advice. But when it comes to buying land, just look at my top performing video about land. Like just go into my videos, hit most popular, and look at the one for land. And that literally breaks down everything you could possibly know. A good overview on purchasing land. It's a great video. That was one of those ones I put together. And I was like, when I got done, I was like, oh, that was awesome. That was good. But if it was me, I would look into the tax credits that would be available to you if you're going to put in a full working farm, because you can get some good tax credits if you do that. DB Douglas says, breaking. Roger Goodell has changed the league name to NFL to TSL, Taylor Swift League. Love it. Such a dad joke. Somebody says, Overjoyed says, HELOCs seem like a good idea on paper, but they can be tricky. If you use too much and your home value drops. Anybody that I've ever seen get in trouble with their HELOC, it was because they had a lack of understanding what the loan product was itself. Some people use those HELOCs as a way to go on that European vacation they never went on. Some people use their HELOCs as an ATM machine, which happened a lot during the last housing crash, where a lot of people lost the value in their housing because prices dropped. They over borrowed because of the HELOC, and then they had to sell, and then they had to short sale or get foreclosed on. They can be tricky. And just like anything, any kind of loan product is always a risk. Even a 30-year mortgage is a risk. So you just have to be smart, and make sure you're making the best financial decision for yourself. I don't know. I'm actually editing a video right now, and it's about insurance rates. And I worry about people that have affordable housing in states like mine, Louisiana, Texas, even, and Florida. If you are on a very tight fixed budget and you did all the right things, you bought below your means, you made sure you had a nice living, but the rate of inflation, and then you get hit with a insurance bill, like people have been seeing, some people are going to have no choice but to walk away from their house, because who's going to buy that house now? Do you know who's going to buy that house? Corporate investors. They're going to, like, let's just say you lived, let's say in, Daytona Beach, right? And you just happen to have a small house, not too close to the beach, far enough away. You've been paying on it for the last 25 years. Your homeowner's insurance was kind of high, let's just say $4,000, and you've been paying it. You had one storm that hit, you did file, just normal stuff. And then this past year, you get a bill in the mail, and it's now $27,000 to get homeowners insurance. Company you've been with for 25 years, all of a sudden is telling you you're going to have to pay that amount of money. Or they tell you, we're no longer going to cover you at all, even though you've paid on time, or maybe even you haven't ever filed a claim. People are in that situation. Like, some people just cannot come up with $27,000 magically out of the air in order to pay for homeowners insurance. And some people, especially people that are living in the most affordable homes, are opting to just say, well, my house is paid off, I'll just hope that nothing happens and I'll stay here and just not pay it. So they're kind of like living on a wing and a prayer that nothing's going to happen. That has to be fixed. And I think, because my conspiracy hat is on and everything is tied together, I feel like some of these areas are intentionally being inflated so other entities can buy up those houses. But I mean, that's me with my tinfoil hat talking. Those trailers for Katrina were reported to be a risk for being sick from them. Yes, they were full of formaldehyde. Do you want to know the weirdest part about it? Full disclosure, they have a whole graveyard full of these FEMA trailers that people gave, like we don't want them, they're full of formaldehyde, right? And they had an open auction, said, warning, these are formaldehyde filled trailers, like, you want them, you're buying them at your own risk, and you had to sign for them. People purchased those. People purchased the formaldehyde filled trailers after, when they had been returned. Some of them had never been lived in, and people bought them. There's actually one, like maybe 5-6 miles down the road, they put it in there, and I'm like, oh, that's a FEMA trailer. And they're like, yep, sure is. I don't know. That wouldn't be me. I mean, I guess if you were going to use it for like a shed or something, but not to live in. But I worry more than some. Question: what are your thoughts on homeless trying to live in really expensive areas such as San Diego County instead of moving to a place that is more affordable? Do they really want help? Oh boy, that's a loaded question. I don't know. I've never been homeless. Thank God I've never been homeless. And I don't know what the mindset of a person is when they are homeless to live in a city like San Diego. I've talked to people before where they needed help, right? And so to get that help, they thought going to the bigger cities would give them more programs for that help, because they don't those small little country towns don't have anything for them. So they thought, well, if I go to a bigger city, they'll have like soup kitchens, they'll have lodging and housing for a single mom with kids. But it wasn't available to them. And so I think sometimes big cities drive more homelessness because they think that's where the resources are. I don't know. I don't know, but that's my guess. I don't know. We have a lot of homes since 2008 that are still vacant. Some of them are gutted. Okay, so I'm going to tell you something about some of the houses that are still sitting from 2008. They're probably purchased by a bank. Most likely, if they're sitting there vacant, they've been purchased by a bank and they consider it as part of their portfolio as a depreciating asset. At some point, they'll sell it. But like another good portion of them is because they don't even know they own them. So many mortgages during that time were bought and sold by other companies and packaged together in other companies that things got lost in the paperwork, lost in the sauce. My friend's dad didn't know who he was supposed to be paying his mortgage to because it had changed hands so many times. And everybody that he talked to, they were like, we don't know who owns your mortgage. I think for 7 years, he kept putting his mortgage payment in a separate account because he couldn't find out who he owed money to. It took them that long. Unfortunately, he passed away before the bank finally knocked on the door and said, hey, you owe us money. And his wife at the time was already moving out of the house. But all that money was set aside in a separate bank account. He had been paying anyway. He was paying all those years because he didn't even know who his mortgage was with. So it's not uncommon to see homes, especially around like Florida and some areas around Las Vegas and stuff that are still vacant from the last housing crash, because I don't think some of these banks even know they own them. So who's on first says, question, historically, has the housing market always been so speculative that this, like the stock market, as now uncontrolled pricing and market speculation is toxic to those who want to buy a simple home? No, it has not always been like this. No. A home was just a place where the average family just went to go live in. It was not as nearly, it's 100% treated like a stock, and how it has been invested in. And the people that got in first got the most benefit out of it, that's for sure. No, it has not always been like this. And I hate that it's like this. It shouldn't be like this. But like, we have politicians, doesn't matter what side of the aisle, are bought and paid for by a lot of billionaire corporations. And they're not going to vote real estate reform for our benefit. That's for sure. And like that bill that's out there to stomp on corporate investing, I find it laughable because I know what they're doing, and you should too, that it's not, this is just to get their name in the paper so they can smile and say they did something. And then they can whine and say, well, they didn't put it on the floor. I mean, I tried for you people. I just couldn't get it done. That's why. Yep. Do you still actively sell real estate? I do not. I work with people to refer them to the right real estate agents in their area. Back in the middle of the pandemic, my dad had cancer, and I didn't want to be the one to bring home something that would have possibly killed him. So I took it upon that time to basically work from home as much as possible. I was still selling houses, but I phased out actually like going out in the car, showing homes like I used to. So no, I just refer everybody to a real estate agent that I'm friends with. If I don't know them, I can't refer them. If I don't have any money in the area, I can't refer you. But if you do need a referral in your area, you can just go to my website at KristinaSmallhorn.com. I'll give you a call and we can talk about your real estate needs, what you need, and I'll connect you with one of my friends that can help you buy or sell your home. So, yep, here we go. Here we go. Look, that's me. Yeah, there it is. And my kids always laugh because I have my feet on my my feet on my website. They're like, Mom, you can't show your feet. People are gross. I barely wear shoes. So. All right. United States housing price growth. The U.S. housing prices grew 3.9% in 2023 of June. following an increase of 6.1% year over year of the previous quarter. Year over year growth data has updated quarterly, available from March. Oh my God, when I would graduate high school, March of 1999, I barely could get it out. 1992, I can't even say it, to June 2023. At the average growth rate of 5.4%, housing price data reached an all-time high of 18.4% in September of 2021. And a record low of a negative 11.9% of March of 2009. Yeah. Housing costs have outpaced inflation for a very long time. And the only time that they corrected was during the last housing crash. So when people see home prices where they're at today, their immediate thought is, there's no doubt we're going to see a same kind of crash that we saw in 2008. I don't doubt there's going to be a price correction, but it is not going to look anything like the crash that we had the last time. That was held up by stupid loans, bad, flippers, all sorts of people getting in way over their head, terrible lending practices. People went to prison for the kinds of loans that they were offering to people. I always joke. I said one of my friends got a house that I knew was way beyond their income, but that she was able to get it, got approved for it. Shocking, right? And that house of cards fell. My sticking point with this is that whenever this had happened this last time, where prices went crazy, the people that were buying houses were not people with kind of questionable credit. They were not giving home loans that were way beyond these people's income levels. It wasn't like a free-for-all with lending. And then we haven't had the same kind of building that we had during that time too. There was so much building going on, and we have not been building the rate of houses like we did back then for over 15 years, 20 years almost, when the last crash happened. We haven't been building enough. So that is keeping home prices elevated when a lot of people were thinking they were going to crash. I maintain that if we see a surge of job losses here in the United States, then we'll see home prices reflective of that. Because if the economy, the only way to get home prices down is going to be people that unfortunately are going to have to lose their homes because they can't find a job to pay for them. That's my thought on it. Alex,
super chat. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. Says, what do you think about the crazy weather and flooding in California? Would you buy in California? There's so many reasons I wouldn't buy in California. First of all, I can't afford it. I mean, that'd be reason number one. I cannot afford California. Every state in the United States has seen crazy weather for the last, 10 years. We were given a warning with Hurricane Katrina to what was to come. All these insurance companies are risk assessment companies. They assess risk. They should have, over time, inflated those insurance premiums, deductibles, whatever it was, instead of hitting it all on people at one time. It wasn't just one storm that caused this. So they shouldn't be doing this to people. I don't know. Risk is like insurance companies made millions of dollars in revenue. Their CEOs, some of the top CEOs for the biggest insurance companies here in the United States, make over $25 million a year. $25 million a year. For that kind of income, they should be able to assess risk better than this, instead of sticking it to people all in 1 year. You can't go to somebody and after they've been paying $2,500 a year and say to them, now you owe us $10,000 for homeowners insurance, and feel like that's okay. Our governors could step in. Back in the day, Jeb Bush stepped in and he said, nope, if you're going to go ahead and take your insurance out of our state, then you're going to go ahead and take your car insurance and all your other policies too. Nope. If you're going to go ahead and take your insurance out of our state, then you're going to go ahead and take your car insurance and all your other policies too. Nope. If you're going to. Sorry about that. There was a little echo there. So, that goes back to, politicians are paid for, right? The insurance companies have paid super PACs and to keep things exactly the way they are. So insurance companies can still make money, in my opinion. And I don't see any governor stepping up and helping with homeowners insurance costs in some of these areas. The job of an insurance company is to assess risk. And if they are so completely clueless and they were blindsided by prices, they're a terrible insurance company and shouldn't be earning a $25 million CEO salary. So that's it. Anyways, falsificationism says, dude, about 40% of whom homeless people have jobs. And guess where they work? In cities. If you clean toilets in San Diego, you can't afford to live there. It's not their fault. That is one perspective of it too. So like even there's places in Montana that used to be very affordable for people to live in, right? A lot of those people have lived in the same houses their whole lives, right? But when those kids have grown up, parents were able to stay in their home that they owned, but now that area has been filled with celebrities buying big pieces of land. Real estate has gone increased, so their kids have nowhere to work. They have to go ahead and stay at home if they have a home in that area. So some of the parks and stuff and ski resorts have come up with like a little tiny home village. They can live there while they work there. They have to pay the resort a fee to live in one of the tiny homes. And, it just reminds me of those old coal mill towns, and steel mill towns. Like you basically own and rent a house from the steel mill, but God forbid that shuts down, then you have no home. Oh, it says, did you know, I did a poll at the beginning of the stream. It says, did you know that sports teams were buying real estate around the arenas? 63% of you didn't know. I didn't know that. Eddie said that like a lot of you were going to know that. So, wow. Yeah. I'm glad I wasn't the only one who didn't know that. I wasn't the only one that was completely clueless about that. I think it's time for Kristina to put out a blooper video. Sometimes I put my bloopers in my videos because I'm like, blah, 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 blah. I do that thing where I'm like talking. Sometimes I'll be mid-sentence and it's like a deer in headlights. I'll be talking and then I was like, what was I saying? And I'll stare at the camera deadpan, right? And then all of a sudden it like the glitch clicks back in and I'll just continue talking. But there's like 20 seconds of dead space. Like you guys never see that part. Thank God. I lose my train of thought. It's hard to talk into a camera, like sitting there, like talking like this. It's very difficult to just do it on your own. I do it all the time. I talk to myself all the time, but Sarah says the rental prices in my area are not bad. If I keep the HELOC amount reasonable, then I can use rent to cover both. It wouldn't make a profit, but is that something that can be done? Well, you gotta remember too, Sarah, that your insurance payments and your taxes for a second property are going to cost more money than your own home, like your own single family home that you own yourself, owner occupied. Whenever you buy a second home, taxes and your insurance is a lot more money because when you have your own home, you have homestead. So you get a property tax break on how much you're paying. With a second home, you're going to be paying the full amount, the full taxed amount. And with your insurance, with a second property, insurance companies take you to the bank for that as well. Terrible. And they'll tell you all sorts of stuff too. We had this one one insurance company that came out there and wanted us to cut down a tree. I'm like, that tree right there? Like, yeah. I'm like, that's on their property. They're like, well, we can't insure you unless you take down that tree. I'm like, how am I going to knock on a neighbor's door and tell them, hey, can I take down your tree? Oh, come on, dude. Whatever. So the city of Arlington, Texas used eminent domain to condemn houses and apartments to build the AT&T stadium. That's kind of gross. Yeah. Well, the eminent domain has always been one of those things that they take people to the cleaners on that one too. That happens in every single city. Saw it in Atlanta a lot back in the day, back in the 90s, because of the part of the Olympic Village and everything. They used eminent domain to get that through. a lot. All right, everybody. Looks like Eddie's ready to wrap this up. I want to thank you so much for being a part of this today. I know that we went totally off the rails, totally off the rails when we talk about real estate, but it was fun. I knew this was going to be a more of a fun stream because I know everybody was preparing to watch Taylor Swift tonight at that what is that football game? Yeah. So enjoy watching Taylor Swift tonight. I'm sure she's going to look stunning. And if you happen to get a little foosball in there too, I hope you enjoy it. Hey, look at that, Kansas City. Woo! All right, everybody. Have a great evening. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you so much to our moderators. And I do want to wish everyone a happy Mardi Gras. Yay, Fat Tuesday's right around the corner. Bye, everybody. Have a good night. Woo! I'm gonna get up for this one.